stunning new info has come to light on the case of former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn. It could lead Flynn to retract his guilty plea and undercut the argument that President Trump tried to obstruct justice. The Washington Examiner's Byron York is here to explain the importance of the new information, along with civil rights attorney and RNC committeewoman from California, Harmeet Dhillon. Great to see both of you. Byron, I just told you I was up middle of the night last night in bed on my phone, which you're not supposed to do, and I was reading your piece. Okay, which is really sad. It's a sad thing. No, but it was good because I learned a lot.
It's a good commercial.
But Mike Flynn, we're all led to believe he lied. He lied to everybody about his contacts with Russia, whether he discussed sanctions or not. Now we find out because of the White House counsel making a memo to the file in February, but that might not have been true.
Well, you and I have talked about how James Comey, FBI director at the time, told Congress that the agents who interviewed Flynn didn't think he lied. Now, what we learn now is that everybody in the White House knew that in real time, that basically Flynn had told people that the FBI agents had told him that not only did they think he had not lied, that they thought they were winding this down. Now, you can say, well, maybe we shouldn't trust Flynn on this, but it's consistent with what Comey had told the House and the Senate. It also means on February 14th of last year, when James Comey wrote that memo about meeting with the president, and the president said, I hope you can see your way to letting this go, letting this Flynn thing go. Well, at the time, it appears that the president, one, knew that the FBI didn't think he had lied, and two, thought the investigation was all but over.
Oh, so you can't obstruct an investigation that you think is all but over. Then why would he say let it go? What was he letting go of if the investigation was over?
Well, if it was all but over, come on.
Just wrap it up.
Wrap this thing up, please. We know you think he didn't lie.
So McGahn, the White House counsel, told the president and shared what happened with the president, correct? And that
absolutely.
That's what we believe.
McGahn talks about actually meeting with the president to tell him.
So Mike Flynn pleads guilty to false statements because he wants to avoid, like this happens all the time, defendants jail for his son, going bankrupt, family difficulty. Is that what we think happened?
Well, we should say we're speculating about that because Flynn has not said a word about this that I'm aware of, and defendants who have pleaded guilty and are awaiting sentence usually don't talk very much.
Harmeet, I have to ask you this. Can Michael Flynn withdraw a plea from a plea deal if indeed this went down as we think it went down? Comey seems to confirm it. Now McGahn confirms it in this memo to the file. What gives here?
Yes, absolutely is unusual, but prior to sentencing, in the interest of justice, the lawyers for Flynn can convince the judge that the predicates for a guilty plea, which the judge's obligation to find out whether the person is pleading guilty voluntarily and without coercion or duress. So I think that is one factor here that you just mentioned is potentially a factor. And number two, the predicate facts for the guilty plea. It's not for the judge to accept somebody's guilty plea if the facts aren't there. And so if the facts aren't there, and remember, this is a judge who has, recently, well after the plea, ordered the government to disclose the the Brady evidence, the exculpatory evidence to the Flynn team.
Right.
That indicates to me the judge has a question as to the predicate facts. And so now it's up to Flynn's lawyers to tell the judge that the plea was not based on full information and or maybe there was some coercion
I have a question.
There, and that's very possible.
Can the judge sua sponte decide to reopen the plea? Say, look, I don't like what I'm hearing here. Can he or she do that?
It has happened as well. I mean, so for example, where a judge has a concern about adequacy of counsel or maybe the mental fitness of a defendant is typically where that happens. But, I think that was a hint. A lot of us raised our eyebrows where the judge said to the government affirmatively, be sure you give over that evidence. So maybe there was a question in the judge's mind already about that.
It's getting very interesting. That's all I can say. I want to talk about the pardon issue because that has just taken everybody's attention now. Since yesterday when Rudy Giuliani, he does an appearance and he does manage to monopolize the narrative. Byron, Chris Christie heard what Rudy said about, well, yes, the president can pardon himself, but he's not going to do that. It's absolute authority except for impeachment. This is what happened on ABC. Let's watch.
Rudy left open the possibility of the president pardoning himself, even though he says he doesn't expect him to do it. He would have the right to do it.
Now, listen, there's no way that'll happen. And the reason it won't is because it then becomes a political problem, George. If the president were to pardon himself, he'll get impeached.
Yeah, I mean, Byron, this is one of these issues that Andy McCarthy was on with me this morning on radio, and he's like, why are we even talking about this? So why am I even talking about it? But this is how the media, they follow this down this rabbit hole. And maybe there's like a method to the madness of Giuliani and getting people on this. I don't know.
It could be. You know, back in the campaign, Republicans were saying if Hillary Clinton were elected, she'd have to pardon herself. Marco Rubio actually said that at one of the debates, as a matter of fact.
We actually have a headline from Law and Crime, Dan Abrams. Let's show that on the screen. If Hillary is indicted, President Clinton could pardon herself, and Congress might be helpless.
Yes.
That's the headline, okay? There it is. That's the headline. I mean, this is a great thing about the internet. You can look up these headlines. Harmeet, I have to play for you a moment. Speaking of Rudy, he was on CNN tonight with this back and forth. Let's watch.
Why do you think they chose to lie about his role in drafting this statement about Trump Jr.'s meeting with the Russians?
Chris, that's the danger of going under oath, that you can make a mistake. Well, please let me finish.
Please go ahead.
You can make a mistake. You can make a mistake, and then if you want to, you can say it's a lie. But it was a mistake. I swear to God, it was a mistake. The guy made a mistake. I corrected it.
Harmeet, they hammered Sarah Huckabee Sanders today on this question at the briefing. What of this? I mean, initially the president was involved in the response of his son, and now apparently he dictated the response.
Well, there's an inconsistency, but as Rudy was pointing out, that doesn't mean that there's a lie. It simply means that there's an inconsistency. And Exhibit A for why you don't fall into the Democratic trap of even opening up this issue is General Flynn that we just spoke about. There could be a question that is posed without the significance being known, and then all of a sudden it turns into a major federal crime because there's a witch hunt going on. So, you know, I think that's really what's at issue here. It's not a great thing, but it is important to clean it up, and hopefully his current counsel is giving him the correct advice about how to do that.
And Byron, we're almost out of time, but Grassley's like, if this was my lawyer, I'd fire him today. Grassley's like, fire Giuliani. She's mouthing off on all this stuff, pardons, and...
I think the position was it wasn't a lie, but if it was a lie, it was only to the New York Times, and that's not a crime.
Yeah, and they lie to us all the time, so does it really? No. Okay, guys, it's great to have you on. In moments, Mike Huckabee on why today's Supreme Court decision on same-sex wedding cakes fell flat.